close at 7 o'clock. Welcome everyone. Here we are. Another year. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. At this time, is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward and offer any comments? Seeing no one, there will also be a public comment period at the end of the meeting. If anything comes to mind. Moving on to the consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, the consent agenda is approved. I have a couple of remarks in the chairman's report. This marks the board's first meeting of the 2018-19 school year. And I'd like to welcome those members of our community, both of them who are attending this evening, and along with those who I know are watching at home, which is a blessing for us. As I'm sure Superintendent Smith will expand upon, we are 3 days into the new school year, and things have gone off largely without a hitch. You can almost feel the enthusiasm among our teachers and our staff, and yes, among our students. I spoke with one second grader on the first day of school, who was happy to report that he had no homework, and was pretty sure there wasn't going to be any for the entire year.
He's pretty certain of that, huh? Okay.
This year's success didn't happen by accident. Planning for the year was well underway when school ended in June, and I'd like to thank our administrators and teachers who worked so hard over the summer to ensure everything was in place when the students returned. I'd also like to thank our custodians who worked tirelessly these past few weeks to get the buildings in top shape. Sunday afternoon, just this past Sunday, I was walking my dog behind Cider Mall when two custodians popped out of the back building to throw something in the dumpster. I was scared to death. You don't expect on Sunday afternoon. I don't know who's here more, but there they were hard at work on the hot Labor Day weekend. Last week I had the pleasure to attend some of our staff welcome back events. This included our new teacher orientation, where Director of Human Resources Maria Coleman introduced 21 new certified teachers and 7 long-term substitutes, who, she said, were selected from almost 800 applicants. That means we select top 3% of applicants. So clearly, Wilton continues to draw and retain the absolute finest teachers of any district. At our last meeting in June, we honored several dozen students from each of our schools who had received awards for their various technology and media projects. We had so many students that we moved the meeting to the Zelma Gallery. It was an awesome way to end the school year, and just a great reminder of the great work that's going on throughout the district. So as we begin another year, I look forward to picking up where we left off into our continued celebration of student learning and achievement. Thank you very much, and go Warriors.
Great, thanks. Pick up right where we left off, and that'll be me talking way too much tonight. So I would rather like the update because, as Chris noted, we've been busy this summer. So welcome back. Our first meeting of the 2018 school year, and absolutely by every count, it's been very smooth. I understand that this afternoon we had a bus stuck over here near the train tracks today. So it was hot that they got home. It was just delayed. Given the week's humidity, we're all grateful that all of our schools are air conditioned. Where my kids goes up in trouble, and what case has been, out of the news about it this week. So we were able to start and run full days and really get the year off right. I want to thank Chris and the other board members who were available to attend the new teacher orientation as well as opening convocation. Both events were not only successful, but also I think spoke to the value that we place on our colleagues and our community. We hired very well this summer, as Chris noted, and I'll just give you a minute to take us through top line, some of those processes.
Well, it's a busy high season, and I was very proud
present the fall class of 2018 at our recent teacher induction. As we just heard, we hired 21 new teachers and 7 long-term substitutes. And in addition to that, we hired 9 coaches, 10 substitutes, 1 custodian, and 1 secretary. And we're just very excited about the talent that we've been able to welcome to Wilton. Our new teachers are coming to us for preparation from institutions like UPenn, Cornell, Villanova, Parsons School of Design for Art, Fairfield University. Our substitutes are coming to us. Many of them are certified teachers or retired teachers. We have a number of retirees from the local community who have come to us from very successful careers in business and science. So we really have a wonderful new group of professionals joining us to support our students and enrich our schools. And we're just very happy about that. So thank you.
We also brought Robbie Townsend back.
We did, yes.
Part-time.
Right, and Rebby retired and very much loved teacher from Wilton High School is now coming back to us to teach our interior design course at the high school. That was, I think, a real treat for staff when they came back on vacation. They're here to join us. Thank you.
So, speaking of convocation, convocation was really special this year. As you may be aware, our much beloved Miller Driscoll custodian, Juan Carvajal, has been out and received treatment for grade 4 glioblastoma. His prognosis is good, and he was able to surprise our staff with a visit to convocation. So I want to just send a thank you to Janet Knowles and Kevin Coezy and our high school academic group who provided Sarah to Juan that morning. It was really special to see. Our convocation speaker, Dr. Mark Brackett, who's the executive director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, was also very well received by staff across the district. With all the tumult and change around new standards, curriculum, new instructional practices, and many demands, we really struggled to ensure that our school climates feel warm and caring and supportive, especially for the adults who dedicate time and energy to our students. The Social Emotional Learning Committee that has been working over the last 2 years recommended that we explore adopting Dr. Brackett's ruler approach. So we've committed this year to exploring that work. As part of that, Chuck Marie and I spent 3 days at Yale back in July. We sent school teams comprised of teachers and administrators to Yale, follow training, and we intend to send additional staff members to subsequent trainings beginning in October. In each of our schools, we'll be exploring the use of some tools developed by our marketing team. One is Let These Enter Place, a tool he calls the meter. Another is the charter. Third is the meta moment, which I think we can all practice using. The mood meter is a simple tool that helps users identify how they're feeling and how they want to feel. And then give them an opportunity to consider strategies for changing how they feel, if that's what they desire. The charter is a community tool that asks the same questions of a group. The purpose, again, is to identify how they want to feel and then make some shared commitments to behaviors that will lead them to the goal. So we'll be using these tools with our adults and exploring them, and then we'll consider adoption later this year. I'd like to take a moment and recognize our unsung heroes that are here tonight. Later you'll hear a facilities update from Chris Burney and Jose Figueroa. Both of these men work tirelessly in the background to lead a team that ensures our schools are clean and well maintained. If you've been in our schools at all this week, then you'll see firsthand that they hold high expectations and their team gets the job done. Also want to recognize Fran Williams, who serves as our transportation coordinator. Fran's in her second year in this role and has done yeoman's work with STA, ensuring that route plan and family needs are met. I know things with transportation work well, my phone doesn't, and my phone hasn't run. I know earlier there's a couple of snags. I also had the opportunity to ride a bus again the first day of school to welcome our kindergartners. And truly made awe that our drivers navigate some of the roads. I joke, Chris, there's one of those roads that we found out. I think you need a ski lift to get on. It was something. So we have an enrollment update. Today, total enrollment is 3,975. That number includes students present in each of our schools, including pre-K, the 6 community step students, and 34 students who are on outplacement. The NESDEC projection for 18-19 was 3974, so we're right there. We do see some substantial variances between projection and actuals at Miller Driscoll, Cider Mill, and the high school. At Miller Driscoll, the projection was for 759 students. We have 788 enrolled. Kindergarten has 15 more students than projected, and grade 2 has 9 more than projected. At Cider Mill, the projection was for 896 students. We have 860 enrolled. The largest variance is in grade 4 with 31 fewer students than projected. Now you may recall that NESDEC actually revised their projections for Cider Mill last year after we saw the unanticipated spike in grade 3 last summer. So the July 17th grade 4 projection was 314. The November 17th grade 4 projection was 339. Current enrollment in grade 4 actually tracks more closely to the original NESDEC projection. Middlebrook has a variance of 6, and the high school has a variance of 22. I think that variance is accounted for by the outplaced students, as the majority of them are high school age, so 24 of the 34 students are in grades 9 through 12. We still have, I think, 17 pending registrations, but also have some students who are enrolled but haven't yet arrived. So we'll finalize all of our numbers in October and present a full enrollment report at that time. But I think the storyline there is we are tracking to projections for the most part, with a pleasant surprise in kindergarten. So what are we working on this year? All of our work continues to be organized around continuous improvement. At the top of the list, we'll continue the work of the Long Range Planning Committee, which will meet again in early October. Invitations to that will be sent next week. To date, the input and feedback from that body has led us to reconsider our vision and mission statements. We'll take a look at the proposed revisions later in the agenda. We do think that our strategic objectives remain the right ones, so when the Long Range Planning Group meets next, we'll be conducting a SWOT analysis and then forming some work streams. As they have in the past, the principals and leadership teams will develop building action plans around raising academic achievement and school climate. As part of our development of a comprehensive social emotional learning approach, as I noted earlier, we'll be exploring with the adults in our system Dr. Brackett's approach with Ruler. In our efforts to develop safe, healthy learning environments, certainly that'll be supported by Ruler. We also have a number of teachers across the district who are experimenting with flexible seating arrangements in their classrooms. Miller Driscoll continues its efforts around play. Cider Mill is beginning to explore that work. And we will be moving forward with our efforts to deepen cultural competence of our staff. All of our emergency operations teams are up and running. We continue our improvement efforts in terms of physical security. We've applied for a substantial grant to improve our security camera capacity, and we are now manning the booth at the high school an hour earlier than a year ago. Fran will talk a little bit about it later, but later this month we'll also be launching an anonymous reporting app for students and parents. In an effort to holistically address sustainability, we're moving forward with our Zero Waste campaign in all 4 schools. Heather Priest and Tammy Thornton are here, and we'll share more with you about that shortly. And then we'll continue with year 2 of our Digital Learning Ready Access initiative, and you'll hear from both Fran and Eric tonight as well. Just a note about next Board of Ed meeting. It'll take place on September 20th, but we're going to relocate to Miller Driscoll in the multipurpose room. Ms. Kuhn has made arrangements to have Lenore Skenazy, who is the author of Free Range Kids and the co-founder of Let Grow, which is an organization dedicated to promoting independence and resiliency in children, make a presentation to our parent community that all of you will be invited to attend, and then she'll join us for a portion of our board meeting, which will follow, so we can talk about her work and our partnership here in Wilton. And just an update briefly about school calendars. We have them when next we meet on the 20th. You will see proposed calendars for 1920 and 2021. I just met with Andrew Nixaji to go over some of those details. I'll spare you all of those details, but know that we're committed to revising the start time to prior to Labor Day so we can end early in June, and we just have a little bit of finagling to before you see copies of that. Those will also come to the Teaching and Learning Committee once we get the drafts squared away. And last but not least, I would remind everyone again, we're on Twitter. The hashtag is WiltonWayCT. If you have the opportunity, take a look. Teachers and administrators from across the district have been very busy posting activities from their classrooms, and there is a whole great deal to celebrate from pre-K to grade 12. I think that's it.
Great, thank you. 3 days in, not bad.
Not bad, right?
Committee reports. I think our 3 committees had various levels of activity over the summer. I know the policy committee, we're meeting next Tuesday. You see we have a lot of our work from last May is on the agenda tonight, but we're planning to do a lot of technical changes. We went through the student rights and responsibility handbook and saw a lot of policies that just looked like they needed freshening. So you'll be seeing a lot of stuff coming from us in the coming weeks. Teaching and learning, I think you guys met last week, right?
We did, and just started, it was mostly trying to decide what direction we're going to go in. So we have some things coming up. We're meeting, so as teaching and learning members, the digital learning committee meeting will be in a couple weeks with Fran and Eric, and then also social emotional learning is curriculum review will be meeting at the end of September, and this year in the cycle it will be FAPA will be starting out, so which is good to have just one because social emotional learning I think was from like 2 years ago. So, but one of the leads into convocation, and I also want to do a shout out to Wilton Youth Council. I was at their meeting this week, and just the work they're doing in Wilton Youth Services, really how much it helps us and how much I think we're all getting on the same page. Like, not that we ever were not on the same page, but just the work they do and the opportunities they provide for parents and for the community really is going to benefit us, and especially as we're on this journey to just for social emotional learning and just all kinds of healthy, exciting academic, journeys that we're all going to be on together. Well, not me, but and we also talked a little bit about the 6141s that will be coming. They come to us first, so we're going to expect to hopefully see some because they have to get everyone get their stuff together. No surprises, mostly just things that have been are coming out of the curriculum review. So. As we're aligning things to standards and to what our students need. So the math department is going to be doing a lot of work, and we hope they have the time to get it going because, they're really addressing our students' needs, and, I'm not putting this very well, but the curriculum that's going forward for math is going to be great, and it takes a lot of work, and it's fine-tuned to Wilton students and the Wilton schools, and it just everything takes a lot of time, but it's all going to be worth it. And Andrea might even have some 6141s too, we hope, but if not this fall, then for before the end of the school year. So just a lot of, and we're also hoping to, we ended last year going to Miller Driscoll for one of our meetings, and that was fabulous. And so we might bug some of the other principals to let us come and tour their schools and see what they're doing. And that's teaching and learning.
Great. Lori, do you have anything to add?
No.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Business ops?
Yeah, ops has not that we will meet on the 20th, the morning of the 20th will be our first meeting for the new year.
Great, thank you. I know you were working on the survey somewhat over the summer. Do you have anything to add, or?
No, I just sent you an updated draft.
Okay.
And I think there may be one since then, because I think some of the Board of Selectmen members weighed in.
Do they have a time frame yet?
They want to finalize it really quickly, so I will
Okay.
get the latest draft to you ASAP. I think it's essentially the same around the
Okay.
school questions. I don't think there's any change there. But I think Lynn Vanderslice wanted to add a couple of concepts, and I think those have been added to some extent.
Great, thank you.
So, but no radical change, and I will get you the latest draft that I can find. But I haven't heard any comments about the school-related questions, so I have not raised any with the bigger committee, so I'm hoping that it's smooth sailing.
Thank you. Moving to review and discuss, facilities update.
So we want to invite Chris Burney and Jose Figueroa. I think this is Jose's first time presenting to the board.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We told him you were all very nice.
Yeah, I know you've had a long day.
Thank you, thank you.
I lent him the time. Good evening. I'm having some voice problems, so I'm going to make some brief announcements, and then I'm going to defer to Jose. But I'd like to start with some information that is of particular interest to my old colleagues on the Miller Driscoll Building Committee, Gretchen and Glenn. And I'd like to tell you that finally, thankfully, the project is finished. We have no more work to do. This summer, we made adjustments to the air conditioning system, so we're now confident and comfortable that we can maintain the correct humidity levels and temperature levels. And that was the final issue. We hope to have final accounting complete in a couple of months. Maybe in November, December, we can come back and tell you what the project cost. Right now, we're holding to some of our earlier estimates, which looks as though final net cost to the town will be somewhere between $36 and $37 million. This summer, we also started working on restoration and upgrades of the Miller Driscoll Learning Commons, which was not a part of the project. The custodians removed all of the old furniture, and the area was painted and patched. We did some testing for some hazmat material, didn't find any. And the furniture, the new furniture and the new carpet will be coming in sometime in October. And we're going to try and schedule that over one of the break weekends. It will be a substantial increase, and it will be the final room in that building that will be finished. The whole project will now be finished. We also, this summer, using our maintenance crew, we installed some additional air conditioning units at Cider Mill to accommodate one of our special needs students. And we are able to maintain a lower temperature than we would normally do in 3 rooms that are critical to her progress. We also replaced one of the older elevators in the district at Middlebrook School. I have an entirely new elevator in that building now, which has been the bane of the staff's existence for several years. Earlier in this year, we completed the installation of solar systems on Miller Driscoll and Middlebrook School. Google Earth very kindly updated their mapping photographs after we finished. So if you go to Google Maps and you look at the aerial satellite pictures, you will see the solar systems in their complete and final state. And since we didn't finish until April, it was very nice of them to send the satellite over after that. I was quite surprised when I saw it. The resurfacing of Lily Field, which is a Parks and Recs project, I talked to the director tonight. He's expecting completion and everything out of there by Tuesday. He did say, perhaps with knowledge of the forecast, that was weather dependent, and that was at 4 o'clock before it started raining. But I think that project will be a wonderful addition and a benefit to the sports teams. Having said that, my voice is about gone. I'm going to defer now for the balance of the work to Jose. Jose is your district supervisor of custodial services, and I will tell you that he has more energy than most people I know and works harder than most people I know, and we're lucky to have him. It's been at times a fun and also vexing summer, but we're still here and we're still able to sit at the same table. So, Jose?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It was a very challenging summer this year. Like Dr. Smith said, with Juan Carvajal, our head custodian, going out, that was unexpected. Tremendous guy, hard worker. So it was kind of hard to fill that void. So that was kind of, I know all the custodians, minds and in their hearts. So with that being said, we were short-handed, short summer, but we were able to still get quite a bit done. Our custodial staff and maintenance department are responsible for 613,000 square feet of cleanable surface that we have to do from the end of school to the beginning of school. On top of that, we were able to get quite a bit of projects done in between there. At Cider Mill, we were able to replace 8,500 square feet of ceiling tile. and also upgrade the lighting to a much more efficient, high-efficient LED fixture. In the past, when you walked into the space, it was very dark and gloomy. So now it's very bright, and it looks very nice. So we were able to get that done in 2 weeks. We also were able to paint 35 classrooms in Nod Hill and Cannondale. The complete classrooms, corridors, all this summer, internally patched. It came up actually very nice. The guys worked very hard. In the entranceway of Cider Mill, we replaced the carpet, the foyer carpet there, which was pretty bad. We updated it, and it looks really nice, and it's a much more durable product. So again, at Cider Mill too, there was some upgrades that we wanted to do in the classrooms that had the 2 adjacent room, and there was a passageway door that was not able to lock, and it was a security concern of ours. We addressed that. We have a locksmith coming out to install locks on each side of the door, so in order to get access to the next room, you have to use a key. So that would be secured at all times. That was one of the concerns that the staff and the teachers had over at Cider Mill, so we took care of that as well. Another thing we did is in the main gymnasium, we replaced all the wire cabling for the basketball hoop rigging. We also installed safety straps, which they never had. There was quite a bit of work that was done, and there was also guards put on the actual backboards. So now every backboard has protective bumper guards on them. So there was a lot of work that was done at Cider Mill. And then at Middlebrook, the same thing. We did the entranceway. We had the entranceway carpet tiles were starting to buckle up, so we got that replaced before school started. We did the same thing over in the gymnasium as well. Replaced all the cabling in the gymnasium, put safety straps on the basketball hoops, had it inspected, which was well overdue. The greenhouse was another big project that we were able to get done. We installed a dry sprinkler system, which they should be buttoning up tomorrow, so that should be all set. We're also running power receptacles in the greenhouse. We have gas that's going to be connected to the greenhouse as well. That should be done within the next week. So the greenhouse will be ready for the ribbon ceremony before October. It'll be done in another week, I'm sure of that. So that was pretty much Middlebrook, and Cider Mill was a big focal point of ours that we wanted to kind of focus our attention on. There was work done at the high school. We replaced 2 ovens in the culinary room, which was nice. It was well overdue. And then we're also installing a fence around the preschool area so that we could create a barrier from the high school kids and the preschool kids. That should happen within another week or so. That should be done. Miller Driscoll, there was really not that much to do there aside from the library. But we did manage to take care of the flagpole area, kind of sprucing that up because it was kind of looking a little run down. So we were able to have someone come out and do some nice planting and sprucing it up. So that was really nice. And we also painted some of the corridors as well. So district-wide, we purchased 115 walkies. We're waiting for them to arrive. The nice thing about the walkies is that we'll have the ability to communicate amongst all the schools from the same walkie, and also have the ability to communicate with the Wilton Police Department and the Fire Department. So it's another safety mechanism that we're trying to integrate with our schools so that we're able to communicate with everyone when we need to. So that was another huge one. We should have the walkies for Miller Driscoll on Tuesday. They're programming them now, so they'll be on site on Tuesday. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. And then the bus barn. We replaced a 1,000-gallon tank that was at the bus barn. We removed it. It was below ground, and then we put a convoluted tank above ground. So that went off well. So.
Did you mention the garden that went in at Cider Mill in like 2 days?
Yeah, we had a company come out and help us out and do the whole front butterfly garden. That was
and the
huge,
rear one,
Yeah.
the brand new rear one.
Yes.
that-
Oh, yes. Yes.
I watched
that was,
go in,
That's
yeah.
very nice too. I forgot about that. Thank you. If you get a chance to swing by Cider Mill, it really is beautiful. They did a very, very nice job there. We're looking forward to the kids utilizing that space. So, but yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. It was nice too. We got offered to go to West Hartford, UConn campus was closing. Myself and Lauren Phelps went to UConn and picked up quite a bit of furniture that they donated to us, so it was well worth it. Middlebrook got some really good quality stuff. I had to kind of restrict Lauren on taking stuff. But it worked out well. It was really, really good, and our whole district benefited from it, so it was very nice. It was well worth it. So it was a busy summer, it really was, and I'm looking forward to this school year and even next year. It's going to even be better.
Well, thank you very much. I know I personally saw you every day, your staff with the dogs, twice a day, every day. Every day.
It was amazing.
It was
minimizing the
fabulous.
amount of work. It was truly amazing.
If I could, I just want to reiterate how lucky we are.
Yeah.
And fortunate we are to have Jose and his staff. And the second, the comments about the hardest working guy in the system. There's no doubt about it in my mind, and his entire staff. We are just so fortunate to have them all. As we think about money and our cost conscious and expense conscious, we could not have a better champion there in that regard. The work he gets done for what it costs is just truly amazing. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Thank you.
It's really
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Truly appreciate it. You guys go home and get some rest. Next up, we have our Zero Waste Initiative overview.
All right, so we want to invite Heather Priest and Tammy Thornton to come forward. Both Heather, you obviously know Heather. I don't know if everybody knows Tammy. Tammy is one of our superstar PTA presidents who has jumped in with both feet and has been a great partner and support to Heather. She's getting this done.
Yes, we have
and we're
become very
excited.
close in the past year. So she's my buddy.
Well, thank you for having both of us tonight. We're very excited to be here and honored as well. And personally, as a parent, I'm just honored to be in this district, and I'm glad we moved here for lots of reasons. But also, when I was teaching, I was Heather Priest, and my staff ran the other way when they saw me because they didn't want to get an eye from me if they didn't recycle something correctly. But all I could ever achieve with them was paper recycling in my school, at a middle school. And to come to this district and to come to this school and to have the support to do what we're doing and what Heather started has to be fully embraced and recognized. It's just amazing. So kudos to you, because it's got paper. But so we're really excited to say that last year, and we have some notes to make sure we say everything. With Middlebrook, we diverted over 11,000 pounds of waste or compost. Food waste, specifically. 11,000 pounds of food waste just from Middlebrook, or from Cider Mill.
That was from
Middlebrook, and then 12,000 from Cider Mill. And now this year, as you got in your memo, all 4 schools are embracing all of the components of zero waste. So that's separating their liquids, recycling, leftover waste, and then composting. And so we're hoping that as we do this, that we'll get over 45,000 pounds of food waste removed from the food stream with all 4 schools. Recycling over 48,000 pounds of recoverable material. So there's a lot that we're still able to recycle as well. So there's a big difference in what's happening. And if you just go check out our dumpsters in the back of the school, you'll notice that the recycling one is overflowing and the garbage one is pretty empty. So it's pretty impressive. All right, you can do that.
So we're obviously very proud of all the statistics that we're able to show you guys and the work that we've done so far, but our job is not done. What we've noticed in the work that we've done, and I'm not sure if Chris Burney is still here, but he could speak to this too, but the recycling laws and the culture around recycling is changing a great bit. There's actually state programs now that are sponsored by CT Deep called What's In, What's Out. And what's happening is it's really changing what carting companies are allowing themselves to take, what they're making money on. So new trade policies are affecting the amount of money that carting companies can make off of recyclables, and unfortunately that's trickling down to us. So they don't want as many recyclables as they used to. They want it cleaner, they want less contamination, and unfortunately that single stream joy that we had for about 2 years makes kind of start changing a little bit. So unfortunately, we really have to do a continual education. We have to be very agile in the messaging that we use with the kids. And I know that's really difficult when you're dealing with such a vast age group, and that's why we really need the support of everyone in the community and in the school district. So what we're trying to do this year is really promote educational programs that will focus on reduction. Okay, so encouraging students to not bring in plastic bags, to start using reusable containers, reusable bottles, skip the straw, all of those things. Don't wrap it in aluminum foil. Use things that can be reused again. We still are selling reusable sandwich bags with the Wilton Memorial logo. Really trying to encourage people to change their habits overall versus just sorting their garbage.
So a couple things we just wanted to mention. This is day 3 of this week going, but something that was really successful last year and we're continuing this year is the food donation aspect of the waste program. So it's really heavy in Miller Driscoll because we have a direct serve program there. So kids aren't choosing a lot of what's going on their trays or in their snack bag or their bags. So that is going to continue at Miller Driscoll. We do bring everything right down to the Wilton Food Pantry. So there's a lot of milk and cheese sticks and yogurts and bagels and carrots and apples.
It's a bad crop this year.
Lots of carrots.
So Bagel Fun Lunch Week is in 2 more weeks, so that'll be the real heavy food donation week. But we're glad that we can still do that. Some of the other schools that do it, after school programs, kids are older, they can go in, they can grab something as a little bit. It's not as heavy of it. There because they just go and grab what they want and then they go have their lunch. At Miller Driscoll also we did a lot of new signage this year with the new program because we didn't have composting last year. We also really amped up in the classrooms this year and we switched over every classroom and office's recycling and garbage cans. So now the garbage cans are now the recycling bins and the little recycling bins we had are the garbage cans. Because in reality, what should be coming out of the classrooms and what does come out of the classrooms is a lot of paper. And so we're trying to visually show people that your recycling should be way more than your garbage in your classroom. So that's new. We'll check in with the teachers, see how it's going. It's an adjustment, but we want to really make a big change in the classrooms as well.
Cider Mill also received a bit of an overhaul for their cafeteria. We found, being some of the first schools to do it at this level, at this volume of kids in a school, we have to learn as we go because we don't have anybody to learn from. And so we found that the really pretty waste stations that we have at the high school and middle school, when we put them into Cider Mill, the kids wanted to look in the garbage and they couldn't see what was in there. So they were frustrated because they wanted to make sure they were putting it in the right place. So what we did is we took those bins out and we put in labeled garbage cans with signage above it with shadow boxes and everything. And that's been a big change for them. And we're really hoping that that helps their contamination of their compost. Also, I'd like to say the 6th graders this year, I had the pleasure of doing lunch duty for 6th grade the past 2 days. And it's obvious that the 5th graders from Cider Mill did a really nice job coming in and jumping right back on the wagon and doing it right.
So we're hoping that as the kids move up each grade, it gets better and better and easier and becomes more of a second nature than anything else. And I think just talking about the education piece, getting on with continuing with Wilton Go Green and working with the town of Wilton to really trying to get all of these families to embrace this programming. And I know Lynn Vanderslice had mentioned that they're working with Keep America Beautiful this November for celebrations around America Recycles Day. So working with the town to try and collaborate together with the schools as well is a goal. And just something else that, someone just keeps mentioning to me for our high school students is to really drive home the fact that when you get on to college, a lot of this is already happening on college campuses. So this isn't, you're going to start it here. It's important to learn it here, and when you get up there, it will be something that's very new.
And that was something I was going to talk about too, is the fact that we have implemented the waste stations at the high school. And right now we have 3 waste stations. We're going to be adding a 4th. And, it's only been 3 days, and Dr. O'Donnell has been a rock star. I've been there 2 days in a row, and he's standing next to the waste stations, or, Mr. Thoreau is wandering through the cafeteria. But it really, truly is a very, long process to get people to change their habits.
And before we finish up with some of that stuff, on the other side of our success is that other people in other towns have been noticing. and are excited by what we're doing, and parents and other community members really want to join it in. And so through Wilton Go Green, we have the Zero Waste Schools Coalition now, which Dr. Smithson's very helpful with, and we are having our first meeting in October. And we're just trying to bring all these schools together that are trying to do this or are doing it, to collaborate and to talk about successes and challenges and how we can work through them together, and not just independently.
All right.
All right, last but not least.
Last but not least. So I just wanted to say everything's going great, but this is going to be a long road, okay? Implementing this kind of habit change can be very challenging and something that has to be cultivated throughout the community. It obviously, we need the work of the administrators throughout the buildings to be champions for us, but really what's going to happen is it's people like Jose, right? It's people like Tammy and Laura Rowley who dig in the compost to pick out plastic when they're volunteering their time at the schools. Also, it's going to be the modeling of behaviors by teachers, paraprofessionals, lunch monitors, bus drivers, support staff. That's what's going to turn it from being trendy to being their mindset, right? And I truly think that once we can get that when students can really embrace this program is when our education and practices weave into those conversations that they have with their parents at the dining room table. So that's my big goal for all of this.
How can this board help you?
Yeah.
Ooh.
You want to come volunteer in the cabin?
What size plastic glove do you wear? Honestly, we need staff in the cafeterias.
Yeah.
We need people to remind and help the kids. It's very difficult. Teachers are busy. Staff is busy. Staff needs to be educated further. We forget sometimes that we all live in this town, but most teachers don't, and most staff doesn't. And they may have different practices in their town, like Bridgeport recycles different than Wilton recycles, okay? And they make compost different at their house than they do at school. So they're not at convocation, right? They're not at those things. So having some time to really educate the lunch monitors that come in, and have time to educate the custodians and really take the time to do that throughout the year and during the summer would be really beneficial. And money for all of the signage and advertising it and paying for, I harangued a high schooler to help me put a video together, so it's helping pull together materials for that, and having a budget for that would be very helpful.
Congratulations to both of you on all of this. I know that we wouldn't have any of this without your innovation and your commitment to this. And Heather, both of you. Heather, congratulations. I know you've received a couple really prestigious awards.
Oh, thank you.
And you really have put Wilton on the map with this. We know that Wilton stands apart from most other school districts for this. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, I guess what struck me, Tammy, you made the comment early on in your presentation, 45,000 pounds.
That's at one, yeah, that'll be 4 schools in 1 year.
In 1 year, it's 20 tons of garbage. And I think you mentioned, that's crazy.
And that's just food waste.
And I know it. It's just beyond.
That's not even
I'm having
recycling.
a hard time comprehending that. And I guess, Heather, you talked to one of the issues. The emphasis to start eliminating at the beginning.
Right.
How do we improve that? How do we get the mindset not to create so much, as opposed to what to do with once we've created it,
right,
which is what we're trying to do now. But no, it really
this is what we're talking about. People run from us, okay?
That's 20 tons.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And that's where I really, for me, so much of it is going to really need to come from families.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe that's another thing that we need. We need access to families and having them understand what this is really about. I can't express to you when I see a kid come in and they literally throw an entire sandwich still in its wrapper in the garbage.
Wow.
So there just needs to be a lot of education, a lot of promotion.
Yeah. See, it's just mind-boggling. 20 tons.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's a lot of garbage that we generate. So anyway, that was my only comment. It just struck me.
Anything
Wow.
else?
Well, I just wonder, at open house, is there a little, I know open houses are packed already, but is there a little way to plug to
Oh, that's a good
parents?
idea.
I do 6th grade open house, and I'd gladly come to 7th and 8th grade open house, or anybody else's open house that that will have me to talk about it. I know Tammy does the Miller Driscoll open house, or no, there's it's changed this year. That's right. Yeah, we're trying
Last year
to
we did, but this year's.
get on there
Okay.
somehow.
Yeah, but yeah, it was an
just a
opportunity.
thought, right. In the meantime, I won't bring a straw ever. Sorry about
Well, thank you again for
Thank you.
everything.
Yeah.
Very
And
much.
on our behalf, you know, you have our pledge to do what we can.
Oh, and may I just say one more thing? Thank you for dedicating the money for the composting. That really made a huge difference, and we could not have done it without that. So thank you very
Thank
much.
you for bringing us the initiative,
Thank you.
so keep them coming.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, thank you.
Something that ties right along with everything we've talked about so far is our next speaker. About a month ago, I got an invitation from Mrs. Beverly Brokaw to come and talk to me about the Blue Zone Initiative, which I had no idea what that was. Looked it up, and it's I don't want to explain it the wrong way, but it's basically a community-wide initiative to promote healthier habits, and from our youngest people to our elderly. So I was so impressed with everything that she's accomplished and everything that she's trying to achieve that I invited Bev to come and talk to us tonight, and you have some materials in your packet. Without further ado.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think your comment to me when we last spoke a couple weeks ago was, I came to this meeting preparing to shoot you down, but after hearing what you have to
That's
say,
exactly what I said.
but after hearing what you have to say, I
wouldn't
see
say
this
that.
is, no, it was very nice. You were very kind. It was a lovely meeting. And she was like, honestly, I was preparing to come and let you down nicely, but tell you thank you very much. We're doing everything we can already along these lines, but now I see you're not trying to reinvent any wheels. You're just trying to get us credit for things that we're already doing. And from what I'm hearing tonight, there are some just absolutely amazing things happening in this district. So I do want to be respectful of your time. I'm actually going to set a timer because I'm very type A for 10 minutes. I'm going to try to stay within that. What I thought I would do is give you a little bit of information on who I am and why in the world I'm doing this. What are the Blue Zones of the world? What is the Blue Zones Project from a macro level? Some of the highlights of some of the communities that are Blue Zones already. And then move into what do we need to do as a community to be Blue Zone certified? What does that mean? What does it look like? There are two things I'd like you to know from the outset. Number one, I am only pursuing this if it could be publicly supported and privately funded. I'm afraid I'm going to flip that one day and say it the wrong way, which would mean a very different thing. Publicly supported, privately funded. So I am actively looking for sponsors to cover the costs for this, just so everybody knows if this were ever a burden on the taxpayers of Wilton or the town of Wilton, it's a no-go for me. The other thing I'd like you to know, the only thing that I'm asking of you all here tonight is if you agree that this is a conversation that is very worthwhile for our community, that you come to a meeting that I've set up. I've raised the money from the community, $5,000, for Blue Zones Project to fly out from Minnesota to come speak to us on Tuesday, October 23rd at the Clune Center at 7 p.m. And I was able to negotiate that fee down from $15,000 to $5,000 because I promised to have our most important influencers and decision makers in town there that night, because it is a 45-minute National Geographic level presentation followed by an hour-and-a-half Q&A period. And that's where I want us to kind of know what this is already, because there's a lot to it, to have thought about it, to raise our objections, to raise our questions, and ask it directly of them. Everything that you're going to hear from me is just what I've researched on my own, to getting into who I am. I'm just a Wilton mom. I have 3 boys in the system. They just started 7th grade, 5th grade, and 3rd grade. And by the way, my 7th grader came home and told me while I was making dinner tonight, hey Mom, my health teacher today showed me a TED Talk on Blue Zones in health class in 7 Yellow. So I was like, yes, I'm talking to the Board of Ed tonight. I'm so glad you told me that today. So there are obviously great things happening, great messages being espoused to our children. And as my son said to her, oh, my mom's working on trying to make Wilton a Blue Zone. She didn't understand how in the world we could make a community like ours, like Ikaria, Greece, or Sardinia, Italy, or Loma Linda, California, et cetera. The reason I'm doing this is because 10 years ago I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I also subsequently got diagnosed with a 25-year-old case of Lyme disease, as well as lupus. Every thyroid condition under the sun, I've been diagnosed with it. 6 years ago, when I moved to Wilton, as part of my own knowing, I wanted greener pastures. I wanted a place like this. At that time, I was on $30,000 a month of medication. So I am no longer on medications for the last about 6 years. So I alone, one person, have saved my insurance company $2.16 million in prescriptions. And every prescription I got, they would cause side effects, and I would get more and more prescriptions handed to me to handle the side effects of those prescriptions. So I knew intuitively something wasn't right. Through lots of hard work and research and days in bed and not being able to walk and not being able to use my hands, drive a car, make lunches for my children, I found health on my own. I wish I had known about Blue Zones then, because they are the principles that can get you well, and I don't want anybody else to suffer the way that I have. So that's why I'm doing this. So Blue Zones are areas around the world. There's only 5 of them. There are 5 communities where people live the longest with the least incidence of disease. These people are not genetically superior. They just happen to live in a community where the healthy choice is the easy choice. This may look familiar to people. It's a National Geographic Blue Zones of the World. This came out originally 12 years ago, and it's on newsstands now. They re-released it, they updated it. It's a man named Dan Buettner, who, by the way, a friend just texted me. He's texting on our Blue Zone Wilton Instagram account right now. He's like, "You guys are awesome. This is great." So we're getting great press already for this. So he studied these communities for the better part of a decade with National Geographic resources, published the story which encapsulated the 9 common denominators that these communities shared. And it wasn't diet and exercise alone. Those things are important, but not in the way that we do it here. There are principles like downshifting is built into their everyday. They move naturally throughout the day. They eat a lot of plants. They put their family first. They know who they are. They have a very strong sense of purpose. They have a very strong tribe around them. If they have a bad day, there's 3 or 4 people that they can call and talk to about it. So this was extremely successful, one of the top selling covers of all time for National Geographic. AARP specifically got very interested in this and said, what do we need to do to make American cities more like these communities? Because we're clearly moving in the wrong direction. And so they created the Blue Zones Project. And through the Blue Zones Project, they implement those 9 principles across public policy, programs, social connections, and built environment changes. So adding town amenities, revitalizing town amenities, creating better circulation throughout the town, creating more walkability, more bikeability, safer driving, things like that. So for example, in schools, the way you can, many things that I'm hearing tonight are, I think we're already doing a lot of these things. Like the Wilton Youth Council was mentioned, the social and emotional stuff that you were talking about before, that is huge. The sustainability efforts that are world class. I mean, that is, all of these things can count towards our certification. Those are the kinds of things, but it's also asking the kids, do you have a few close friends that you can talk to if you're having a bad day? If you're stressed out, do you have the tools to deal with that? So all of these things can be built into our community. There are 42 cities across the United States that are Blue Zones already. We would be the first in the Northeast. And so I've listened to and read every article they've ever written. I know the fact that us being a New York City commutable town would be an extremely interesting thing to them. They say that Blue Zones already, the ones, they're primarily in the Midwest. There's a couple in California. The states of Hawaii and Iowa are doing it from a gubernatorial level. Those communities are promised 1 billion impressions just in terms of news stories. All the information that I'm telling you, I've read from news media outlets around the world. I was walking in with a woman who had seen this on Good Morning America. I saw it on Today's Show. It's on Dr. Oz, Oprah. Everybody is covering this and watching it. So we would get local and national recognition as a Blue Zone. And the fact that the author is already engaging with our Instagram account is tremendous. I know he would mention it on his TV interviews and in his media. So it's just some highlights. There's a town called Albert Lea, Minnesota, which was one of the original reasons why I picked up the phone. It was the day of the Middlebrook parent conference about the hate crimes that were happening, and I just wanted to do something for kids. I was writing down what I wanted to do to teach kids about health, and he was being interviewed on the television, and he talked about the first Blue Zone, which was a town called Albert Lea, Minnesota. Same size as Wilton, same kinds of things. Great amenities, nice town, but property values going in the wrong directions, too many store vacancies, circulation of the town didn't quite flow right. Things just needed to be revamped a little bit, and more of an identity needed to be galvanized. They were number 68 out of 87 communities in Minnesota. They're now number 33, and they drop a few spots every year. They were just named one of the top places to live in Minnesota last year. They got a 25% increase in property values. They got 20 new businesses in 3 years, and they got $40 million in grants, gifts, and investments that wouldn't otherwise exist if it weren't for this well-being focus. On average, communities get $8 million, and the amount you get just has to do with the community's proactivity in asking for grants and asking for investments from sponsors. As part of Blue Zones, you also get incredible metrics. Gallup has been canvassing communities and their well-being initiatives for decades. They canvass 190 communities. From 2016 to 2018, they're seeing the steepest decline they've ever seen in the last few decades, yet the city of Naples, Florida went in the completely opposite direction, and they maintained the #1 spot for 3 years. And if you go to Gallup's website, you'll see that they attribute that to the fact that Naples is now a blue zone and has been for 5 years, and they're actively investing in their community's well-being across their sense of purpose, their feeling about their community, their physical health, their social health, and their emotional health. And apparently, from what I've discussed with Blue Zones, they will kind of work with you. So if we say we canvassed our students last year with Dr. Luther's amazing research, this is something that is a hot button for our community. We're really worried about this. We want to work on it. We would be canvassed before we become a Blue Zone, and we would get that Gallup research every year that we're a partner with them, paid for by our sponsors. So it's incredible data and metrics that are also part of this. Dan Burden, I just gave him something as he walked out the door that he doesn't want any part of, because he's a lot on his plate, I know, but there's a man named Dan Burden who would come to our community, and I just want to read some of the stats about him because it sounds like I'm making it up, but the 2014 White House recognized him as one of the top 10 champions of change in transportation. Time magazine called him one of the 6 most important civic innovators in the world, and on and on and on, all of these different things. I have been speaking to the POCD community about this committee, because that's exactly what they're trying to do right now. Figure out how do we get our town more walkable, bikeable, the circulation a little bit better. We'd have his expertise. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's obviously very well recognized for doing so. So that would be also part of what is paid for by our sponsor. So what would we as a school need to do? I think we're already doing much of it as a school district, things like activity breaks and movement opportunities, school gardens and cooking classes count. They have a menu of like 200 items, and you all and everybody within the school community would sit down with them, tell them what we're already doing, see what can already get us certified. Hopefully they're revenue neutral. Maybe if we do need to make any changes, hopefully they're revenue neutral. Many of the things that it's about making small changes for big impact. So things like gardens. They have already worked with Sodexo and Aramark, who are Chartwell's main competitors. I'm meeting with Chartwell's next week. I would actually love to take this higher up in Chartwell's, because I just think that they would get incredible press and a lot of benefit out of becoming a partner with us in this Blue Zone initiative. Instead of, we can have policies so if we do this and businesses do want to come, we can say, we as a district, as a town, will not allow you, Dairy Queen, to be within a half a mile from our schools or 1,000 feet of our schools. We don't want you easy walking distance for our students. So we can be more mindful of the kinds of businesses that we allow in. The parenting classes, sense of purpose education, teaching kids about the community and volunteer opportunities, et cetera, those would all count towards certification. So I would just love to know what you all think of this, and if you agree that it's important. I'd love for you to come to the meeting in October and help me figure out who else needs to be there.
Right. Well, I think we are doing a lot of things. It's definitely the direction we're going in.
Mm-hmm.
The big one is the community. We sometimes wrestle with that as well, because I think, what Heather Priest was saying, like zero waste. Mm-hmm. We can teach the kids, but, it really has to go deeper than, farther outside the school. So I'd like to see the community come out and encourage us the way, but I think the schools are doing a lot of it. As you point out, it definitely is in line with where we're going.
Yeah, and it just kind of galvanizes and creates this identity that we as a community, and the kids would be talking about it, and the families would be talking about it at dinner, because many of these towns reach 90% awareness of the Blue Zone Initiative. And so you're talking as a family, you kind of change your lifestyle. There's a woman here in town, her daughter is at a school down south, and she studied the Blue Zones as part of her college course. And so she already had changed their household to make some of these sustainable practices and change their food that they're eating and plant a garden and things like that. So it's something that it just kind of, Wilton already, I think, is a blue zone for many people, but there is a lot of people don't understand who we are and what we stand for. And I think this is very unique to us. It would take advantage of our trails, our farms, our best assets that other towns don't have. And all of the things that I'm hearing tonight are unique to Wilton as well, and those would be highlighted and hopefully, publicized.
As you've done your research, what have you identified as the biggest obstacles for Wilton?
A lot of people fear that this is, people trying to tell me what I can and can't eat, or people assume that it's I have to go keto and run marathons, and it's not. It's about tiny little changes. 20% of the population, for example, would have to take a personal pledge to do something Blue Zone oriented. And that could mean calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. That could mean creating a wine club. That could mean having a walking meeting instead of wine is part of it, by the way. But not as much as we Americans typically drink. But so it's easily achievable, and it's not about. So like I said, I've already had to live as if it were a blue zone here, and blue zones is about making the healthy choice the easy choice. What I find here and everywhere is that the unhealthy choice is often the only choice. And I don't want that for my kids, and I don't want that for myself. So it's kind of, if you walk into a convenience store, it's really hard to find something that is remotely healthy. The convenience stores here could also get certification as well. And when you do these kinds of things, your community starts to get known for these things. We already are known for an RVT, and people come to hike on the trails. Why not allow them to be able to traverse the entire town? Or, we will never be a town that can have sidewalks everywhere, which some blue zones have. But you could theoretically, take your family and park at one end of town and just meander and see so many of our best assets and spend the day, rather than getting in your car and driving everywhere. So the biggest obstacles are, he said it's funny. He said people kind of are afraid that this is people saying this is them trying to mandate what I can eat and what I can do, but then it does end up being typically more conservative communities that do it, because they're the ones that are extremely.
That's what I thought it was before I met with you, which was why I wanted you to come and talk.
You thought it was a political thing, you mean? Or
No, that it was completely change everything
Oh,
about
right. Yeah.
lifestyle and stuff.
And so that's why it's hard to get information from them, because they say every blue zone is completely different. It just really depends on the town and their character and their values and their infrastructure. And so, and they also hold a lot of their information very close to the vest until you are a partner. But I have confirmed everything that I'm saying I know that it's true, and you can read about it, all these other communities.
Would it be possible for, the school district to be certified and recognized as a blue zone school district?
Absolutely.
Without necessarily the entire town of Wilton being
Sure,
certified
yeah.
as such?
So to get certification, 25% of the public schools in the town have to be certified. So we're only one public school district. And 25% of the restaurants, 25% of the grocery stores, which I already got Village Market today to agree they'll probably do it. So we've got 33% if you count Caroluzzi's, or we've got 50% of those have to be certified, and then 20% of people have to take that pledge just to do one thing. So we could say our school district is Blue Zone certified. And the reason it's blue is just because they put a map of the world on the wall when they were finding the original 5, and they had a blue Sharpie, and they made concentric circles of long life, low disease, and they called them blue zones. So it has nothing to do with anything else but that, but it happens to work well with our town, which is kind of nice.
So we as a board would have to agree to invite these people to come and go through a certification process? Is that what
So
we
they
have
would
to
come, the first step is this meeting in October. And that night, that's why I wanted you all to be aware of what it is in advance, so you can think about it, come up with your questions, your potential objections, your concerns, it's 45 minutes of them giving us their National Geographic Blue Zones, eat a lot of beans and healthy stuff, and then it would be an hour and a half Q&A. And that's where this is our chance to see if this is something we want to pursue. I think it's at least worth the conversation because of all those potential benefits. I don't really see a downside in at least having the conversation. And from that, if we would regroup as a community and decide, is this something that we want to pursue? Did we like what we heard? Were there things that made us say, no, this isn't going to work for us? If it is something that we want to pursue, then I think they come back in about a month or two's time, and then it's like a 3-month process of them getting to know us and us getting to know them. They only work with communities where town leadership is aligned. They don't want to come in and have to deal with a fight. So the towns that they choose are towns where town leadership is on board and galvanized and ready to do this.
You mentioned the POCD
Mm-hmm.
group, and I go to some of those meetings just as being sort of the board rep. And it's an interesting process, but it seems that this fits right into their defining the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if I was there the evening. Somebody mentioned who was on it. Maybe it was you, and I apologize if I don't remember. But I'm just wondering, for this October 23rd meeting, it seems like it would be important to get the leadership of that committee process there.
As they told me at their last meeting when I sat in front of them just like this at Town Hall one early Saturday morning, okay, fine, like we get it. you got us as much as you're gonna get us. Like, we get it. They said your challenge and my challenge has been going to every organization in town and every business and I'm turning people blue on a spreadsheet, and I'm gonna take that to the selectmen, because that's what Lynn said. Tell me that my constituents are interested in this and that we should pay attention, because otherwise we have a lot to do. So I'm just gonna bring them a blue spreadsheet and say, okay, everybody thinks this is at least just a conversation that's worthwhile to have. We're not endorsing blue zones, we don't know enough about it, but this is certainly something that's interesting and just seems to fit with so many of the initiatives that I've read about and heard about here.
Anyone else? Thank you again for everything. I know I have the meeting on my calendar.
Great.
What
So-
time is it on the 23rd?
7
o'clock.
p.m. at the Clune
7,
Center,
23rd.
Tuesday, October 23rd.
Thank you again.
You're welcome, thank you.
Yeah. So we've sort of got a themed improvements, right? And now we're gonna do technology. Fran and Eric are here to give us an update on digital learning, if I said that correctly. You sort of planned that. Couldn't have planned that.
Okay, I'm just going to start by introducing the young men around the room. I don't know if you noticed, but we have 3 up here manning the cameras. We have Doug, who's going to be helping me and Eric with the presentation, and Jake and Jack, and we actually have 2 others downstairs. We also have an additional few freshmen that actually are joining us. So I just want to really thank everyone that is doing this, and very excited about the fact that we've recruited so many more to work with us. So good evening, and thank you for having us. We are really going to just take a look at what we've done over the summer and where we're going this coming year. Just use the thing. Thanks. No problem. All right, so Eric and I did a presentation at the end of last year where we actually talked about where we had begun and where we ended up at the end of the year. And the very simple statement that we made was that Wilton Public Schools is a ready access digital learning district, which was very powerful in of itself. That took a lot of people and a lot of effort. One of the things that we spoke about was the fact that we, through our LLC and the importance and the change in the role, were able to deploy devices. We were able to provide lots of resources, consistent digital tool sets, professional learning, And we were able to hear at that presentation from teachers who were able to take advantage of those resources and actually really have some amazing learning experiences that they had with the students. So with all of that, we went into the summer with a variety of projects that we undertook, and most of that was really planning for what year 2 would bring us. So I always like to start with what our goals are, because it reminds us and it kind of grounds us in what we're doing. And Eric and I are really at these 2 bullet points that you see here. The first, which is, creating a learner-centered, personalized, and innovative digital learning environment, is really what our goal is. But in order to have that happen, you can't do it without a robust infrastructure that becomes the foundation for all of that to happen. One of the things I want to actually recognize is the fact that we started the summer with presentations at the National ISTE conference, which is very well attended. It's worldwide. We had almost 20,000 attendees. And Wilton was represented with 3 different presentations. One of them was actually with our IT innovators, which were our students, that Eric and I also presented with. And this particular graphic was one that they created, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that I'm giving credit to where credit is due. And what they did was they took our vision into sections, and they really explained it in a really very nice graphic visual manner. So going on to the next slide, just use the area, don't worry about the. So we had a lot of stats coming into year 1. We deployed 2,800 Chromebooks, 450 iPads. There were many apps, and there's still very many apps, 270 apps to actually name a number, that are vetted, that are deployed, that we now are going through a student data privacy law that has been actually initiated as of June 30th this year. And Eric will speak to it, but lots and lots of work has been done on the switches, closets, et cetera. With all these devices being imaged, we also did a tremendous amount of inventorying within our Follett system. So that leads us up to the big projects of the summer.
So our big projects for the summer this year, we replaced every switch in the core, which connects us to the internet, and the high school and the middle school. So all the switches were replaced. All the wireless access points were replaced. We added about 30 additional access points. So we now have an access point in every instructional space, to my knowledge. I have 1 or 2 spares in case there's a space that we missed or we need to replace one. We also upgraded the high school. So we've gone through about 2/3 of the high school staff so far, and we've replaced the desktops in the classroom with laptops. So we're reducing our technological footprint. So instead of having a desktop and a laptop in every instructional space, we only have 1 device now that connects to the smart board and allows our staff to do what they need to do, but also remain mobile. So they have a ready access device as well, and they're not tethered to the desk. We've also upgraded our AV systems. So we've put presentation spaces in the Clune and the Zellner and the high school cafeteria. We're also putting one in the middle school auditorium. So we will actually have projectors, microphones, and a system in place where you can walk into the room, you hit 1 button to turn it on, and then you turn on the microphones and you can present. So we have, instead of moving screens and projectors around and set up, we now can just walk into a space and use that space when we need it, and not take resources from other spaces that may have wanted to have those resources. We're working on a printing initiative right now. As part of our printing initiative, this sort of goes into our Go Green initiatives that we have in the district. We're not trying to eliminate printing by any means. What we're trying to do is we're trying to streamline some of the printing we're currently doing. So we'll be putting a little pop-up in printing to tell people that the cost to print to your local printer is X cents a page, and the cost to go to one of our larger units is less than a penny a page. To try and say if you're printing out 2 or 3 pages, to print it locally makes sense. If you're doing 500 classroom sets, it would be a substantial reduction for us to print it elsewhere. We've also are almost ready to start piloting at the high school some new printing at the high school and also at the middle school, where students will be emailing a print job into a print queue and then typing in a 6-digit code when they get to the printer. So historically what's happened is students could print throughout the building and they would print a document, but by the time they arrived there, 10 other students had printed. So those prints were put off to the side and they couldn't find the print or they're missing pages, they had to print it again. So this allows the student to print from home or school or wherever they're printing and then come to school the next day, type in their code, print it out and walk away. So it allows us to, still give the ease of printing, but reduce a lot of the waste. And then, I think I have one more. Software integration and automation. What we're really looking at right now is we have a lot of manual processes in our business processes, from staff hires all the way through creating accounts and email accounts and updating the web page. And we have a interdepartmental project going on where we're looking to automate a lot of our business processes and eliminate the duplication of efforts and a lot of the manual entry. So this is an ongoing project that we expect to have a good portion of it done between January 1st and the end of June, so we're ready for the next school year. And this is something that if we can just achieve 50% automation this year, it'll be very successful, and we can build upon that every year to sort of make sure that our data, as it comes in, moves through all our systems in a unified and streamlined manner. And then our 3-year daily internet average internet speeds. This doesn't look terribly impressive, but this is our 24-hour usage graphs. This shows our average usage, per minute over an entire day. And if you notice, over the last 3 years, we've actually gone from about a 50 meg average to last year almost 100 meg average, and or 2 years ago 100, to coming in a little over 150 towards the end of last year. And our expectation this year is we will be in the 200 to 250, maybe 300 range. And that is indicative of the amount of network bandwidth we're using, and how we're using that across the entire day. So by expanding our infrastructure we've done at the high school and middle school, more students have access. The access speeds are higher, and we're able to get them out to the internet in a much quicker manner. So next year we're looking to bring that to Miller Driscoll and Cider Mill, and we appreciate their patience.
So we're going into year 2 of our digital learning plan. And one of my favorite things to do at the beginning of the school year, and I know we're only just 3 days into the school year, but yesterday I spent my morning just going from school to school and taking a look and asking our teachers, our students, folks in our LLC how things were going, because I was curious, how was our deployment going year 2? And I had a couple of things that were just, I'm going to quote, manageable. I thought that was a really good one. It's controlled, smoother for sure, expected but prepared. So there was a lot of activity in each of our LLC, and lots of stuff going on, but our staff was definitely prepared. Our staff was definitely ready for what was going to happen. They didn't feel like, as one put it, up against the wall. So I think all of those were really excellent. But my favorite thing was that I have unsolicited comments from teachers. They come up to me. I had one email from a teacher who shared with me that she thought that the work of the LLC team was absolutely exceptional. And I have people that just stop me in the hallway and say the same thing. So in my estimation, and this is not data-driven, it's just my observation, this year went a lot smoother at the beginning of the school year in terms of this deployment. It started feeling like something was almost wrong, but it wasn't. There was a lot of right. There was a lot of preparation going from the summer into the beginning of the school year, and I couldn't be more pleased with all of the work that everyone did.
And I have to say to the administrators and the staff, we really appreciate the patience, because when we rolled this out last year, there was, people were concerned that would we be able to do it? Would we be successful? We were. And this year, when we had some issues that in previous years would have been, a little more, there would have been more concern, I believe that there was a trust that we would be able to resolve and move forward. And we really appreciate the support that we saw from the buildings and our staff and teachers and administrators, and as we opened school this year.
One of the things that we implemented at the end of the school year and we talked about was the summer learning program. And as a result of that, at least in our 5th, 6th, and 7th grade classes, students and parents were invited to take their devices home. We had a huge percentage, a very, very small percentage that didn't. And as a result, they're coming back in and they're beginning to work practically day one with devices. The other thing, which is, on the side, as you all know, there was curriculum and there were programs set in place for that. One of our most, accessed websites was the summer learning one, and our Overdrive, which was the first year that we had a K-12 program with Overdrive, quadrupled in terms of circulation. We've had it in secondary. We added books in the primary ages, and we saw the circulation go way high. So the combination of having the devices, going home, starting the year out with the devices, having resources and summer reading books was really a great success. So as we're moving forward, I think that what we need to talk about is that we're shifting from the tools, because they're becoming just day-to-day kind of operation, and now we're really talking about the learning possibilities.
Absolutely.
So,
that's our whole goal. Our whole goal is that the technology becomes an expectation, not a, is it going to work? So
Yeah.
That's good.
That is a great segue into this. The graphic in the middle there is a Menti. I know a lot of you participated in these types of word cloud discussions and having something like this come up. In a recent presentation to the Cider Mill staff on integrating digital literacy curriculum through transdisciplinary learning projects, we talked about what does it mean to have transdisciplinary type of projects, and these were the words that came up. So I wanted you to just know that this is from the staff, saying that it's about exploration and it's about relevance and connections, multiple disciplines, perspectives, meaningful learning. You don't see technology anywhere, right? Okay. The next couple of slides are going to look really strange because even though we're presenting on technology, there's not a lot on technology here. So I just want to kind of brace us for that.
Yeah.
So this is all about authentic learning, collaborating with experts, local community, global classrooms, emphasizing critical thinking and innovation, and being able to create products that represent real-world solutions, being able to create awareness campaigns, and through all that to an audience that really reaches much further than just the classroom. So this is the easiest way I can explain transdisciplinary learning. It's going to be a very big aspect of what we're going to be doing the next few years as we talk about digital learning. We've now gone into the phase of saying, okay, over the next 3 years, rather than concentrating on having devices deployed in a new grade, and this is often times when you see implementations that are typical or traditional for digital learning, what you'll see is a group of grades having devices 1 year. The following year, you then, kind of like focus on another group of grades. Remember, we're a K-12 digital learning district already, so now we're able to actually concentrate and focus on what's important, which is this part of it. And transdisciplinary learning has these 4 components of it. They're authentic, meaning that students are exploring questions that are actually important and relevant and meaningful to them. And you're actually exploring through many lenses of different disciplines. So it's not, that siloed approach that we often talk about. And you start with empathy. You start with, what's an actual problem that we want to solve. You take a perspective of others. So everything that we do as a district is going to be embedded in this. Students have agency, meaning that they have a choice in what the topic is, how they're going to solve it, and how they're going to express themselves. They then think about what the action might be. What can they create? What would be something that can come out of it? And they do this with an audience that, again, goes beyond the classroom. It could be through a community event, a campaign, or it could be a global connection. And all of this is, I'll talk about the technology in a second, but all of this is actually what the work is all about. So the 4 A's, as I'll call them, for transdisciplinary learning, are enhanced because of the technology. In some cases, they're actually made possible because of the technology. So this is an example to give you something concrete of what a curriculum map might look like across grade levels. This is K-5, and units in here represent units that are in science and social studies as content areas. This can happen in any. What's in blue have been identified as units that are going to be delivered as transdisciplinary, meaning that within those particular units, there are performance tasks that follow those 4 A's. So I'll give you the example of 3rd grade. And you'll see in social studies, 3rd grade, there is a unit that is part of the social studies curriculum, and it is about Native Americans. The end task is that the students create an artifact that then becomes an interactive museum. So my most interesting conversation this summer was with the 3rd grade team as we were explaining this, and one of the teachers turned to me and said, "But you're not talking about technology." And I said, "Well, if you hear me out, it's an interactive museum. We're going to be having the students record either a poem or something informational. We're going to create QR codes as they're creating these artifacts of representing the life of the Native American. They're going to actually add that QR code to the exhibit. So then at the end, when you're actually walking through the museum, and we will invite, besides the classes, we're going to invite parents, we're going to invite community members, they will be able to interact with the exhibit. So you see where the technology is. It's not that upfront, but it makes it possible. There's a couple of others that I just want to kind of point out so you have an idea. There's a Global Inventors Project in 5th grade that will have our students in their classrooms actually make connection with a global classroom. This one actually happens to be in Africa. And we're pairing up students so they have conversations with students in Africa. And they will talk about inventions and what they need in terms of, solar. In this case, it's actually resources in solar. They will use technology, of course, because that's how they're making the connection. They will learn how to actually talk to students from overseas. They will learn how to create a video. And through all of that, you have the technology, you have that transdisciplinary nature, you're getting to all of the standards that you need to also get to. So those are 2 examples, but across the grades, we're looking to do that over the next 3 years.
Fran, are the 3rd graders making the QR codes, or are the instructors making them?
The 3rd grade students will be making them. And they're actually also doing the audio with an app that actually records what they've written.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just real high level in terms of the highlights of what's coming up. Obviously, the transdisciplinary learning is a huge part of it. We've updated our digital citizenship curriculum. That's actually ongoing right now. For the first time this year, we're actually going to be doing an assessment called the Digital Literacy Assessment, which is aligned to the ISTE standards. We are actually doing this in grades 5 and 8. We're going to do a pre-assessment in the beginning of the year, giving us benchmark and hopefully actionable data. And it will be very interesting because it includes also a survey of how students use online tools. We're also going to be doing parent workshops. We did a number of them, very popular last year. We're going to do that again on topics that our parents really are interested in. We have 4 different afternoons that we're going to be focusing on professional learning, global literacy, redesigning assessments, accessing Access for All, basically using UDL, and we're going to do a sharing, big culminating activity of teachers sharing with teachers and the community. We're also going to build the expertise of our experts, meaning that our trainers, who end up being our LLC staff, oftentimes aren't the ones that get trained. So we want to make sure that we do that this year. And I threw website updates in there. You'll start seeing some changes in our homepage. I'm working with webmasters on hopefully making it more user-friendly, making the navigation easier, and making the homepage more consistent and having the content really driven. We are using Twitter. You'll see social media on the front page. We got, just so you know, we had an assessment and audit by Final Site, and they gave us a very high score. So we have a great website. We have a great place to start, and we're just going to improve on that.
Fran, last year we started the digital citizenship curriculum because obviously the program
It was
is
the
new.
first year.
So this is a curriculum that
It was last
students are
year's
going to get it every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because obviously it's, well, it may not be obvious, but every year the lessons are different.
Okay.
And so as students are progressing, they're appropriate for their grade level. Yeah. And then I think we're on the last slide, right? Yeah. Oh, okay. So I think Kevin, Dr. Smith mentioned this in the beginning. So we are introducing this year a tool for our students that goes along with the See Something, Say Something, but being able to use a reporting tool where they can feel safe and they can report on concerns that may vary and do that through email, through phone, or through text. We are beginning to roll it out as we speak. We have plans of doing a variety of things for our students, for staff, for administrators, so that it is something that hopefully will be used and used by our students to great success and to help them out. And then finally, I just wanted to, again, it's all about the students. On our final slide, it's about student empowerment. And I'm thrilled with the fact that we were able to have our student innovators at the conference, and that's them there. And we've got a great new crew coming forward. We're doing some some great stuff with at Middlebrook with a new group of IT innovators as well. So it's all about the student experience, and I just wanted to thank all of them as well.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
The progress in 2 years is just remarkable. Congratulations. I remember where we were 2 years ago. And
Totally
it's,
different
completely
experience coming
well
out
done.
right now.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one question. I was intrigued by the news this week, I guess, that France has eliminated cell phones for students in all of their schools, both public and private.
That's correct.
Well, it's funny that you said that because one of the things I was going to ask if Bob or Don could talk to, there's a no cell phone in the classroom policy now at the high school.
Yeah,
I didn't know if all the board members
They
knew
did
that.
it from, I guess, from whatever their first grades all the way up through just to high school, and they left it up, I think, as I remember correctly, up to the high schools to make their own calls, but everything up to high school, cell phones are gone
Right.
for the day in the schools.
Here's the issue, Glenn. I mean,
And-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I guess one of the questions was that I know in our BYOD program, the cell phones were one of the devices that were possible to be used. And I don't know if that's still the case, or,
Yes,
you know.
it's not a blanket ban. I think
Yeah.
that the tension that we're living through right now is, first and foremost, I think educationally, we have an obligation to teach responsible use. That term should be, ubiquitous across the district. The challenge is just the developmental stages our kids are in, and the level of distractibility
Yeah.
that cell phones present. So I mean, you can ask these guys. We were having a conversation earlier tonight about it, and one of the gentlemen here remarked that they've noticed that with the cell phones away, kids are already less distracted after 3 days. But it's an uncomfortable tension point, and I think as Bob can speak to himself. But it's not a flat out ban. If a teacher has a bona fide use for a cell phone, then kids will have it because it's can be an educational tool.
Yeah, and if there's a student has a specific need to have one, but the comment that was made was, I guess the principal of the head of this one school said, I just got tired of looking in my lunchroom at lunch and seeing all of my students looking at their cell phones instead of talking with each other.
I would add that we fully support the BYOD policy, and I think we have made a lot of progress.
Yeah.
I think it's incumbent on us to listen to our educators and our teachers, and when we hear consistent feedback that the distractibility index is just so high, and we know many of us are so tethered to our devices, our cell phones. We listened. I think we had a thoughtful communication plan. We communicated with the students, the families. I think people are getting on board. But at times, when the teacher asks the students to use cell phones for a specific educational purpose, they will do so. And I think the phones were just a bit too clandestine, and I think too tempting to our students and often to our adults. So we are trying to, as administrators and teachers and staff members, walk the walk if we're talking the talk, and trying to limit our own behaviors. And I hope we'll get the whole community on board and have it be successful and increase learning and attention.
And this, quite honestly, I think you may even go back in time to the whole blue zone concept, okay?
That's right.
To the extent we could eliminate that and have, dialogue between each other, looking each other in the eye and having conversation, which just frustrates me so much when I see my own daughter with a friend of hers in the same room, texting each other. Give me a break, okay? This is years ago, she's gotten better. But they were literally in the same room.
Yep, of course.
One on the sofa, one curled up in a chair, and they're texting each other. Are you kidding me?
So
talk to each other.
digital
Look at each other.
citizenship includes actually balance. It's a digital balance or digital health, as a matter of fact.
More power to France, I think. They probably
Yeah.
did something good.
Fran, with regard to the app, Speak Up,
Speak Up, yes.
who is being alerted when a student
The,
submits something?
the administrators in
So it's building
buildings.
specific?
Yes.
And was that something that was developed specifically for Wilton, or is it something we adapted?
So Kim Zemo and I spent a good several months last year looking at several possible vendors that have apps that do similar types of things. We decided on this particular one because of the fact that it was easy. You don't have to download an app. It doesn't have to be somewhere else. It's actually part of the G Suite environment. And we were using Gaggle for monitoring and archiving already. And this is actually part of the suite that Gaggle offers. So the way that Gaggle has worked in the past will continue. So in terms of, just the seamless nature of it, it worked, and it's also very easy. I mean, there's a phone number, there's an email, and that's how it works.
And how will it be rolled out to kids? We
have an implementation plan. Actually, Kim Zemo and I developed something where we will have, Kevin will send something out in terms of the parents. We will have a press release. We will have presentations. At the high school, I know that Bob is working with the Morning Warriors group on creating a video to put it as part of the advisory program. So we are, I guess, in the next couple of weeks, doing a variety of things to roll it out.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Other issues?
I just wanted to say that, you always sort of want the technology to take a behind-the-scenes role. And I just think that you both, as a team, and probably the whole administrative staff as well, and the staff, are just so thoughtful that it's the learning that's in the center. It's really not the glitz, if you will, or the device. So I just thank you for keeping the focus where it needs to be.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
How are the signs working, Eric, in the parking lot?
Oh, they're yours?
They're working really
There's
well.
Eric works
Signs?
with those signs.
So I'm very excited.
They
about
are
that.
working?
Thank you.
They are working.
Okay.
There are visitor spots available.
Okay, good for you.
Glow in the dark.
Everyone's afraid, and we're serious.
It was in red, it was written in
There are
red.
teeth behind those signs. There's cameras embedded in those signs, right?
No, I mean, there are cameras.
No, I think they're in the signs.
Get that out to the public, let the kids
I think
know.
the photos, right?
Right.
Long-range planning, next steps.
All right, so this will be brief. I think just about everyone in the room participated in what I thought were two really powerful long-range planning sessions where we had an opportunity to look at where we are, reconsider where we want to go, and then hold that up in light of some of the theories of action and strategic objectives that we've laid out. Using some digital tools that Fran put together, we were able to solicit feedback in a fairly efficient way. And what came back to us, as I mentioned at the start of the night, was a sense that the vision as we have it presently crafted doesn't fully capture the consensus of who we want to be and where we want to go. So we spent time this summer playing with that. And it's a lot like making sausage, or so sausage makers say. It's kind of messy, and everybody has concepts that they really favor. So what we're endeavoring to do, and you have a kind of a first, most recent draft in front of you for examination tonight, is try to get down to the core essence. Because quite frankly, we could, and I know it's my own propensity, I like to list out every single adjective that describes what I want our students to be, or the attributes I want them to have. And you just get lost in the words. They're all important, and all the concepts are important, but the most important gets lost in that. So we're trying to drill it down. I want to just give some credit to Genevieve Eason, who's been a great thought partner in recent weeks. As I've sent this to her, she gave me some early feedback back in June, and so I've sent this to her. She came back with some wonderful thoughts. In fact, one of her recommendations, as kind of we're looking at this, is that we also explicitly name our core values. And that was something Chuck and I, kind of began that in the last couple of days, and that too became very hard. I generated a list, starting with the 6 pillars of character, and then I added Tony Wagner's 7 survival skills, and among others. And I handed them a marker and said, "Go tell me which ones are most important to you." And he came back with the marker and the paper and said, "No, we need to look at this differently." And I think he's absolutely right. We need to look at this differently. But that's also, it's important work, because I think if we can do that, then it'll also help crystallize our thinking about what our goals, our more immediate goals, and what our longer term goals have to be. I'm going to just shut up in 30 seconds, but just want to take you through this. So we're playing a little bit here. So we love the concept of our school system really being for a better world, right? And if you think about all that you've heard tonight, what is it that we're trying to teach our students, right? And organize our adults around. It's beyond individual skills, but it's about contribution, right? And participation in society. Next, as you're looking down the paper here, we also thought it was important to differentiate mission from vision, which we hadn't done previously. I think mission was implicit but not explicit. And this is where we started to really try to simplify. So what we're proposing is that the mission of our school system is to inspire and prepare all of our students to contribute to a complex, globally interconnected society. And then the vision, where are we going? What is it that we want? We want our students to become, and this was kind of fun too. We are engaged in an ongoing conversation about how to express the vision. In our previous iteration, we said our students will become, but that's not really fair to them because they're already in the act of becoming, and it's not as though they go through the process and plop, now there's something else. So they kind of show up, through their family relationships and early formation. So, and they're not quite yet either, so we didn't feel comfortable with will be or are. So we have an awkward construct right now of are becoming.
But I just changed it. I just changed it to will be.
Right, so that's why, there you go.
Right.
Okay, and so what is it that they are in the act of becoming? Responsible, productive, resourceful members of this community and the global community, who both confidently and competently pursue their goals and aspirations. Those two expressions, confident and competent, those were important to me because they're not the same, but I think they dovetail each other. And then the middle piece of that, our instructional program will ignite passion in our learners through a holistic, learner-centered, and challenging experience that emphasizes personal empowerment, critical thinking, collective well-being, and constructive civic engagement. So those are concepts that live in our current vision. I think the piece that hasn't been named explicitly is the notion of well-being, which you heard a lot about tonight, and wellness in general. And then kind of flowing from there, we also wanted to identify some core beliefs about how students learn best. And Chuck, as we were talking over the last 24 hours, made the recommendation that we really ought to make these promises. This is our commitment in terms of our learning environment. And so I think we want to go back and revise how these are expressed. But the concepts, I think, are the right concepts. So students' health, safety, and wellness are our top priorities. That they have strong, trusting relationships with teachers, forged by mutual care, consideration, and respect. Learning is we just saw a great example of how we're driving toward a more authentic learning that's relevant and meaningful, as well as creating opportunities for students to have both voice and choice in what and how they learn. I would add where as well. Teachers are responsive. And then there are strong partnerships among students, teachers, and pardon the typo, families. That's what's missing. Which, that came up very clearly last year in the survey results from Sonia Luthar. So I think that I don't think we're there yet. I'd like you to kind of look at it, mull on it. We'll have an opportunity again on the 20th. To tinker with it, and you get first opportunity to provide some feedback. We will meet again as a long-range planning group. I'm looking at right around the first week of October. I'd like to share this, whatever version we're comfortable with at that time, with that group. Also push back out into each of our schools, and really make sure that we get the right kind of stakeholder community buy-in. And then from here, as the administrative team has talked, I think with the exception of that first strategic objective, which focused on connection, I think we need to just broaden that a little bit, because connection is certainly part of it, but I'm not sure it's the whole story. We talked about social emotional learning, the work with Mark Brackett. There's room to grow there. But in terms of our instructional program, the emphasis on universal design, I think, is the right one, as well. The development of performance assessments, and then really continuing our work on improving student achievement for all kids. I think those are the right levers, as we continue to strive to be the best we can be.
Great.
That was way more than 30 seconds.
Any feedback, any comments? Yeah, I've already jotted some notes, and I know how much back and forth went into this.
Much.
since the last long-range plan meeting. It's sort of a continual, I don't think it's one of these things will ever,
No.
a constant documenting transition, so thank you. And, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I think it's
Thinking
fun.
about
It's
it.
good work.
It's also it's
It
powerful.
really is. And like you said, you talk to 5 different people, you'll come up with 5 different, absolute top priorities of what we want these schools to be.
If you ask the group that's in the room, they each have a different one, and they would fight to
I'm
the
not
death for it.
surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Moving on next to our fabulous policy committee and their work from last May.
But this is the moment we've all been waiting
Right?
for, right? So,
It's been
strike up the band.
all summer. I've been looking forward to that.
Great. So, these are the policies, or a subset of the policies that the committee withheld in June because our agenda in June was action-packed. Each of them are mandated policies, so I'm just going to take you through some of the highlights here. Tonight they're on for review and discuss. They'll be on the agenda for the 20th for discuss and approve. So the first one, 4118.231, that's a previously existing policy. It's the use of tobacco policy. We actually need to rename it as the drug and alcohol in possession. It's a mandated policy. Just in terms of a structural note, as we've been trying to do with previously existing policies, we're revising the policy to focus on the what, and then the accompanying regulation to focus on the how. That's not perfect in every policy, but in this one, it makes sense. The purpose of this policy is to state the board's prohibition of staff members using or possessing drugs, alcohol, or tobacco on school property, and while engaged in school-related activities while off school grounds. The regulation summarizes the federal and state law prohibition against the use and/or possession of alcohol and drugs in the workplace. It defines the workplace and stipulates employee conduct relative to the policy. The regulation also defines tobacco products. E-cigarettes weren't a thing when the first tobacco policy was written.
Any comments?
Just in terms of reading it, I guess I'm not being very quick tonight. Are these existing and you have modified them, or this is new language?
So-
I can't tell what's changed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have sent the red line version. We're writing them into board docs now, which doesn't have the same interactive ability of
So you
redlining.
can put it in red or
I'll have
whatever.
to think about how to do that. So the difference is that the previously existing policy spoke to tobacco almost exclusively, so drugs and alcohol weren't referenced in
Oh.
catching up with changes in the law and what the
Some of the
mandated policy.
terminology.
The other
Could
policy,
italicize the changes? Since they're
I'll
redlining,
have to
or-
play with it. We'll try to do something.
much
so
of the
that way-
regulation was included as part of the policy.
Right.
Okay, it's just,
previously,
we don't know
so we
that,
just
so
short-
it's just hard. to
Sorry.
follow, that's all. So
Yeah.
I didn't know whether we're starting from scratch or,
No.
this you tweaked
Oh,
it.
it's substantially redlined.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions or comments on this one? All right, so continuing with the theme, 4118.232, this is the policy is entitled Alcohol, Tobacco, and Drug-Free Workplace. This is also a new mandated policy. So the purpose of this policy is to state the board's intent to provide a workplace that is free of alcohol, smoking, secondhand tobacco smoke, illegal and prescription drug abuse. The policy is adopted in accordance with state law and the Federal Drug-Free Workplace Act. In addition to repeating the prohibitions that were detailed in 4118.231, this policy also includes a provision for employee assistance should an employee seek assistance for a drug or alcohol problem. And I would just remind the board, some of these have come up through the CABE audit we conducted a year ago, and then as CABE has been catching us up with new mandated policies. The third, 4212.42, drug and alcohol testing for bus drivers. Continuing with the theme. This is also a new mandated policy for us. This policy stipulates that any bus service contracts approved by the Wilton Board of Education shall include assurances that the contractor will establish and actively enforce a drug and alcohol testing program that meets federal and state requirements.
Is there any policies or regulations about bus drivers smoking or vaping?
Well, they would be subject to these policies.
So all of the other policies relate to the bus
For
drivers?
sure, because they're, it's a contracted service, but they're, by extension, Wilton Board of Ed employees.
Okay. Are they allowed to smoke on the premises there at the bus barn?
Do you know what? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find
curious.
out. Mhm.
Okay, so you said there are standards for the drug and alcohol testing program that the contracted bus
It's
service would,
they're written into the contract. Yeah, that they have to provide. So it's pre-employment testing, periodic testing. Is that what you're speaking to?
right, but I'm just wondering if there are standards by which we can judge them. In other words, more than lip service?
Yep.
Or when you say random, once every 5 years, once every 5 days? I mean, I just need a sense of
I'll have to
scale.
come back to you on that. That's a
Yeah.
great question.
And so are they able to take advantage of the employee assistance program? Because they're not employees of the school district, right?
And this
They're
would be
employees of
something
the
that
bus company, right?
STA would provide, and that's actually mandated through the Transportation Act of 1991.
Might be interesting, Kevin, to try and get the actual language of the contract.
We have the, I
Yeah.
we'll circulate copies of the contract, but I think.
It's only the whole, just language that deals with this.
For sure.
So, not the whole contract.
Right,
Sure.
right. No, yeah, just a sense of some level of specificity or consistency or fidelity or something.
Got it. Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Great. All right, the last one is also a new mandated policy. The purpose of this policy, this is the food service charging policy.
Mandated by
This is state mandated policy.
state.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's typically either federal or state. So it's 3542.43. The purpose of this policy is to affirm the district's practice of allowing students to charge cafeteria meals on occasions when they don't have enough money on hand or in their account to cover the cost of a meal. The accompanying regulations describe, how that can be done and what the limits are. Currently, there's a $9 maximum credit limit in place. There was some new language that I think Ann had fun with as we were going through it that distinguishes delinquent debt versus bad debt. And the short of that, when delinquent debt becomes bad debt, the board owns the bad debt. And you just have to refresh my memory. We lose maybe $1,000 a year.
This year was about $1,900.
Okay, a little higher.
And they put a big push to Chartwell's, especially they've reached out to some of the administrators with the schools as well. But
Right.
Chartwell sent out a lot of letters, really started a big push to try and get that money in.
Yeah, so we want to make sure kids eat. It's our obligation to
and there's
ensure
nothing we
kids
can
have a
do
meal.
about it if they, we still have to provide it.
And to just, try to, work with families to make sure that they're meeting their obligations, and we are too.
So this allows them to pretty much buy whatever they want until their balance falls to a negative $9, and then they're limited to only something that's
Set meal.
a set meal.
Yeah,
Right.
by the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think they can't show up and buy all snacks. I
No.
think it's
No.
a
Oh, no,
meal.
there's this,
Right.
yes, that's correct, it's a set meal that they get.
Okay. It's just that I know that my daughter's been in that unfortunate situation on occasion, and the set meal was nothing that she was the least bit interested
Right.
Took a
in
sandwich.
eating.
Yeah, it's usually like a cheese sandwich.
Yeah, a cheese
and-
sandwich
Yeah,
or
it's
something,
basically
yeah.
a cheese sandwich and a fruit or, the
Yeah.
It's probably typically designed to discourage you from getting into that situation.
Well, it wasn't her fault. But I will tell you that I do like the new, what is it called, the My School Bucks program. I think that works, but, they send me emails when her balance is running low.
Yeah.
So I don't think it happened at all this past year, so that's been a welcome improvement to the system.
Is there any sense of, or some of these, I mean, families, like, just, have any sense that some of the families, it's financial, like, there's a real financial need that they have not addressed or talked to the school about?
I don't know, because we have, you also have, without getting into too much details on, you've got the free and reduced lunch that families
Right,
are
yeah.
notified on. So and because there was changes in the Medicaid law, law, that, it actually increased more families that are getting the assistance that
Okay.
they need for it. So it's out there that they can, and
Right,
there's
it
no
just-
identification on who those families are either. But
As
we
is
don't know
appropriate,
from
but I
the
just
family
wonder, yeah.
behind the scenes of why.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
yeah.
the Chartwell's is gonna keep a tighter rein on it, and then internally for us, from an accounting standpoint, we're changing our procedures as well.
Just a completely tangential thing, but since we're talking about food service, and we have financial people here, just wanted to make sure that what happened in, say, a neighboring town couldn't happen here.
Yeah, prior to that coming out, we had met at the beginning of the summer with Chartwell's, and I'm trying to get more control in regards to all their systems. So all their My School Bucks, Authorize.net, all the programs that go in from the payment aspect, and also the deposits. So we're getting all that in line. I've been the one running the books every month now. So since I came in, I've been actually doing the school lunch fund every single month to reconcile. It was typically done at the end of the year by the auditor, so we run it through. So I see the swings and the history of where it's been. We're actually, once this next 2 weeks die down, I'm meeting with Chartwell's again in regards to our own procedures that we want to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? That concludes our business portion of our meeting, and that brings us to our second comment period. Would anyone from the public care to come? Seeing no one. As Dr. Smith mentioned, our next meeting will be on Thursday, September 20th at Miller Driscoll. Looking forward to you hosting us, Mrs. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Before we do, I just want to remind everyone that football season starts tomorrow night.
Away, right?
Away at Brian McMahon. So all of you at home, hopefully the weather will hold off, so it's going to rain again tomorrow. But we are looking forward to a really bright, exciting new era in Warrior football from high school. So
Right, go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
Girls soccer have a home game tomorrow.
And field hockey,
Field hockey, I think field hockey was probably rained out tonight.
Rained out today, I'm sure, right?
Chris was out getting people up.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I would just say, I like this setup.
Yeah.
I do too.
It's cozy, right?
So, yeah.
In the winter, we're really gonna like
It's
it
nice
when
to be
it's
able to see
cozy.
everybody.
I can see everybody's
Much better. So much closer.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Thank you.